was elected to represent the citizens of Pittsburgh, not Paris.
President Trump fulfills a major campaign promise, pulling the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord.
He is not helping the forgotten American. He is hurting them. Their kids will have worse asthma in the summer.
For me, this is kind of like Groundhog Day. And you know what happened when George Bush pulled out of the Kyoto Treaty? We reduced our emissions faster than the European countries that are now criticizing Donald Trump.
While you were sleeping, the Trump administration asking the Supreme Court to reinstate the revised executive order on restricted travel.
Hillary Clinton's 2016 excuse tour continued today.
Obviously, I'm particularly concerned about the role that Russia played.
It's a pathetic performance. It's sort of childish. She obviously can't accept responsibility.
Mr. Woods, can you come up this way, please? Blow out. Blow out. Don't suck it, blow out.
Taking home a big WIN. That's an easy one. 12-year-old Ananya Vinay coming in first place at the 90th Scripps National Spelling Bee.
American.
She knows what it means.
A-R-O-C-A-I-N.
That is correct.
Congratulations.
We first heard Scotty McCreery, watched him win American Idol.
Winning it.
And then he went to country music, he got accepted, and he's soaring. While going to college, he's out of college, back on our stage.
And Brian, he showed up. Remember, you tried calling him this morning,
right.
Didn't answer his phone.
I got his
No
voicemail.
surprise there, but he did show up, and he is fabulous. His voice is unreal. We've got barbecue on the plaza.
Famous Dave's out there with some ribs.
We've got so much on the show today.
I love it. And you've got 2 donuts in front of you because it's also National Donut Day.
So I grew up having Krispy Kremes. It was like a Sunday outing for my family. My dad would pile us in the car, drive us to where they made the donuts. It was like the best day of all time. So seeing Krispy Kremes in our studio, it brings it all back.
Right. In other words, the heck with calories. Don't worry about the sugar high. Put the kids in.
Last week we learned that salt is good for you. Just eat whatever you want.
Right. We went on a pub crawl as a family. We went from bar to bar to bar. Everyone has their own traditions. Meanwhile, Ainsley is at the White House. Ainsley, what are you doing there?
Were you 21, Brian? Let's just hope so. You know the answer.
He was the designated driver.
Abby's stories about all these little kids jumping in the car.
Totally.
Your dad takes you to the bar.
Well, he owned a bar. He wanted us to know that we could still get into the business early.
Right. Good morning to all of you. Pete, Abby, Brian, so good to see y'all. Brian, great job with the Wounded Warriors last night. I know you'll be talking about that coming up on the show. We got on a plane. We came down here to D.C. because the vice president said he was going to sit down with us for Fox and Friends. So we're going to talk to him in about an hour. Send your questions in to us, friends@foxnews.com. We're really excited. The president in the White House behind us, home from his foreign trip. You saw him yesterday in the Rose Garden. We had that live coverage saying that he was pulling out of the Paris Agreement. We're going to talk to the vice president about that. We're going to ask him also about what you were talking about, the Supreme Court. The president, his administration has asked the Supreme Court to revive that travel ban. We're going to be talking to him about the attack in Manila and Manchester and how we protect our own country, tax reform, health care, Hillary Clinton, all kinds of good stuff. So send your questions in if you have some for the vice president, and we'll ask him. Okay? Ainsley, I don't know if you know this, but Pete has emailed you his question.
I have. You have it in your inbox.
That is not true. That is not true. Pete, I checked my email right before this because I was going to look for it, and I don't have it.
You're going to have it.
It's not in here.
It's in my draft folder. It's coming to you.
Yeah, check Clutter.
You did not send me an email,
Clutter,
mister.
because I'm pretty sure you put them in spam.
What's my stuff in
You're
the
in
spam?
my
You're
junk
right.
mail.
I know.
I love it. We can't wait, Ainsley.
It'll be a
Thank
great
you.
interview. Thanks, Ainsley.
Thank you.
Right.
Well, speaking of the White House, yesterday in the Rose Garden at 3, as you said, not 3 o'clock, about 3:20, the president walked out and did what a lot of his supporters were hoping he would do. He said, we are pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement. This is what he said yesterday.
I was elected to represent the citizens of Pittsburgh, not Paris. I promised I would exit or renegotiate any deal which fails to serve America's interests. Very rarely do we have a deal that works for this country, but they'll soon be under renegotiation. The process has begun from day one. Not only does this deal subject our citizens to harsh economic restrictions, it fails to live up to our environmental ideals. I cannot in good conscience support a deal that punishes the United States, which is what it does. The world's leader in environmental protection, while imposing no meaningful obligations on the world's leading polluters.
I mean, the president came out and says, look, it's going to cost us 2.7 million jobs. It's going to cost us countless amount of money. The Wall Street Journal, when the Paris Agreement was first signed on by 193 nations, said it was going to cost the American economy $170 billion by 2030. And people say, well, it doesn't matter. We're very fortunate. We're very lucky. We're very rich. We have to take the lead there. And this president goes, excuse me, I got elected by saying I'm pulling out of this because it's not good for us. It doesn't mean we're stopping with hybrid. It doesn't mean hybrid engines or electric cars. Doesn't mean we're moving away from wind and solar.
We're actually leading the world with much of that stuff. When you think about natural, clean gas, we have got an abundance of resources right here in the U.S.
That's
you
right.
can still lead on the world stage. We don't need a deal to solidify that. I thought the best line he had, he said, I was elected, as you said, Brian, to represent the people of Pittsburgh, not Paris. I mean, that speaks to his message throughout his campaign.
Absolutely. This was America first. This was Americanism versus globalism. The elites have long since forgotten about Pittsburgh and Ohio and West Virginia. He says, you are not forgotten any longer. I don't care what the world leaders of the G7 think about me. I'll look them in the eye and say, I'm the president of the United States. I'm going to do what's best for my country. And he's being criticized for not leading American leadership. This is leadership. Well, when you step up and say, I'm going to cut against the grain and against the crowd and against groupthink, and I'm going to cut a good deal for America.
He did call around to other world leaders and say, about 3 o'clock, I'm getting out. And the French president said, that why I respect the decision. I'm inviting all American scientists to come to France and come to Paris. And if you're welcome here.
Yeah. Well, they're still welcome here. Right. What's President Trump kicking the scientists out?
No, it's a misnomer. But Charles Krauthammer said last night, and he's hardly somebody who wakes up in the morning patting Donald Trump on the back. He says, I'm for a climate deal that is not exporting our coal industry to China, because that's what they're doing. They're increasing production, no cutbacks for 20 years.
That's right. This is a massive redistribution of wealth to other countries and redistribution of power. You talked about America's strength. It's like we're being punished for being a superpower under this climate accord.
So I was flipping through the channels yesterday afternoon as this was all happening, just to get a sense of how it was being talked about. It was amazing how it was like the end of the world was coming. I had to turn it all off, but here's just a sense of how that went.
On a sunny day in the Rose Garden, what could be defined and construed as a dark speech.
I have such rage and sadness. We just watched a dangerous little man give a very, very scary speech.
One of the most bleak depictions of America's role in the world as environmental partners.
He is not helping the forgotten American. He is hurting them. Their kids will have worse asthma in the summer. And the president who talked about putting America first has now put America last.
This was full nationalist, America first, damn the rest of the world, President Trump.
It was almost like Mad Libs for conservatives, this speech.
It was profoundly sad. He, as you pointed out, portrayed a very dark vision for the future of the country.
This will be the day that the United States resigned as the leader of the free world. It's nothing short of that.
Wow. Really? Resigned as the leader of the free world, a dangerous little man. Is how he was
because
described.
Global climate change is a religion for the left. It is a religion for academia, for elites, for the global media. It's for them. It's the biggest threat we face. Forget Islamism and radical Islam. No, it's climate change.
Although a lot of people say, well, I'm not going to make up my mind until I find out what celebrities think. That's what I say. So here's Leonardo DiCaprio, Alyssa Milano, George Takei, who was great in Star Trek in 1970, Rosie O'Donnell, John Legend, Bette Midler, all tweeting anti-Trump rhetoric because of this.
Brian, what would the left be saying today had he stayed in that deal?
They would have been saying...
You made a great point about this.
This would have been the theme today. Another promise broken by this president.
Yes.
Not good move to come around and be coachable. Yeah. Because the people that hated him wanted him to stay in.
You can't win.
And the people, for example, he did make the decision to leave the Capitol in Tel Aviv.
He might as well stay loyal to his following then.
Well, that's what
he's going to be criticized either way. So we asked you as well what you thought about the move yesterday and his speech.
Because we care more about your tweets than celebrity tweets.
So your comments have been pouring in. This is Amy on Twitter. She says, I saw it. Awesome speech. Sound resounding, resonating. This is our man, America first.
And Ed on Twitter says, great move, Mr. President. Let China and India pay for their own modernization. No one paid us when we were making the transition. Ignore the Democrats.
And Jeff says the president simply approached the accord like a businessman. When it comes to investing in other countries' environmental programs, the U.S. citizens were not getting a good return on the investment because we're supposed to be writing checks to developing nations.
Yes.
Who knows if there'll be any follow-up? This only would increase its pressure on us. And I'm not saying we shouldn't and for those who have a lot, you should distribute. We have foreign aid. The president does not like the way we give out. He thinks we give out way too much foreign aid.
We forget about how he looks at the world like a businessman. Really. We've had politician after politician after politician. He says, bad deal. I want the free market to be unleashed here. It already is being unleashed. Let's let that help us improve our economy.
So he says, look, I'll do a deal, but I want to do a better deal. And France and Germany came back and says, we're not, and Italy, we're not doing another deal. This deal stands. You're out.
Yeah, well, because not everyone benefits from that.
Right.
Peace. See you later.
All right. Now to Fox News alert. Well, U.S. leader of the Trump administration asking the Supreme Court to revive the controversial travel halt.
If it passed, it would overrule lower courts' decisions to block the order, barring entry for people from 6 Muslim-majority countries.
Griff Jenkins is live for us in our nation's capital with those breaking details. Griff, good morning.
Good morning, guys. The administration is expressing confidence as they ask the Supreme Court to reinstate that travel ban, freezing lower courts' decisions to block it. The Justice Department argues in their filing late last night that the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals in Richmond made several mistakes in their ruling, stressing this order makes the nation safer if it's in place. The order halts new visas from being issued from people in 6 Muslim-majority countries. They are Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. President Trump initially signed the executive order in January, but immediately faced backlash with protests erupting across the country and federal judges blocking it. Then in March, the president issued a narrower order, which was again blocked by federal courts, and Hawaii filed a new lawsuit against the order. The ACLU lashing out on Twitter last night, writing, "We've beat this hateful ban and are ready to do it again. Hashtag no Muslim ban ever." But Justice Department spokeswoman Sarah Isgur Flores defended it, saying, quote, "The president is not required to admit people from countries that sponsor or shelter terrorism until he determines that they can be properly vetted and do not pose a security risk to the United States." Guys, there's no timeline on when the court will rule. It will be interesting to see whether it will be decided by one justice or referred to the full court for a vote, which would take 5 votes to be reinstated.
Yeah. At least he has his attorney general in place and everyone else, or his legal team writing it. It was the president kind of drafting it in the White House to begin with.
Yeah, finally.
They got
Right,
the
thank
A-team
you.
ready to fight it. Yep.
All right, let's toss over to Jillian for some other headlines this morning.
Good Friday morning to you guys, to you at home as well. Let's get right to a Fox News alert. Defense Secretary James Mattis landing in Singapore overnight. He's meeting with diplomats from South Korea, Japan, and Australia for a key defense summit. The leaders will discuss North Korea's growing nuclear threat, as well as America's security goals under President Trump. This is his second trip to the region since taking charge of the Pentagon. Terrifying new video of a plane that's packed with passengers. Take a look. Catching fire mid-air. Flames shooting out of the engine after the United Airlines flight hits a flock of birds. Pilots forced to turn back to Chicago O'Hare Airport just moments after takeoff. Passengers landing safely in Miami on a new plane. Just a quick look at your headlines. I'll see you guys in a little bit.
All right, Jillian.
Thanks, Jillian.
Okay, concert coming up. Meanwhile, 13 minutes after the hour.
That's right. President Trump fulfilling another campaign promise by pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement. And our next guest calls it a brilliant moment you won't want to miss. Katie Hopkins' take next.
Everybody, we will rock you. We will.
President Trump fulfilling a major campaign promise, pulling the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. And our next guest says that she saw climate change scaremongering to secure grants. DailyMail.com global columnist Katie Hopkins is live for us in London. Katie, good to have you with us.
Thank you.
All right, so if you watch any other network this morning, we have lost our leadership on the world stage. What do you say?
It's absolutely nonsense. I can't believe these guys are buying into this kind of furor that this is the destruction of the planet, that we're lost forever, that global warming is going to incinerate all of us. The real question we should be putting out there to the public is, does the United States want to spend billions of dollars for developing countries to sign up to nothing that obligates them to reducing global warming? There is no other explanation for it but that. All the United States is doing with the Paris Accord is signing away billions of dollars to developing countries that create most of the emissions. And actually, those countries, there is no binding agreement. The Paris Accord is just kind of a trust document. It's an honesty document. True leadership is what Trump is doing right now. He's standing up. He's calling out the Paris Accord as a bad deal. And all that really was a bunch of global leaders bidding against themselves to try and get signatures from the developing countries. The minute they went in that room to sign that, they knew they were signing it. It's an absolute fraud. Trump's done the right thing.
Well, you have seen the scaremongering when it comes to climate change in action. You've been in similar meetings like this. Help people understand what's really going on behind closed doors.
Yes, unfortunately for my good self and against my better judgment, I did work in the public sector for a while at the UK Meteorological Office, the major Met Office, the weather people. I was selling climate change to the traders in the futures departments to hedge their bets. I have seen scientists virtually on their knees begging for grants from the EU, grants from these kind of climate change funds that you guys are supposed to be paying into. I have seen them scaremongering. I have seen them using data in interesting ways to make the problem seem worse in order to secure funding, in order to secure their jobs. It's a cyclical thing. They're all buying into it. The right thing to do if you're liberal is condemn Trump. What we should be saying is Trump has shown true leadership. Trump is calling out the Paris Accord as a complete fraud, and Trump is determined to make America great again. People should be stopping dressing as polar bears and backing President Trump.
All right, Katie Hopkins, we're going to have to leave it right there. Thanks for being with us this morning. Of course. Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right, well, as Democrats exhaust their Russia narrative, are they missing the biggest story of all? Counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, will weigh in on the headline that no one else is talking about this morning. Plus, Hillary Clinton piling on the excuses for why she lost.
Go to Netflix, from the New York Times, Facebook, 1,000 Russian agents, Trump's Twitter account, the Democratic Party.
We've heard it all. So with all of these excuses, is it time for the Democratic Party to distance themselves from Hillary Clinton? We are going to debate that next. And more.
Next, 18 hours. That's the length of United Airlines' new flight from Los Angeles to Singapore. The 8,700-mile nonstop journey, and it really is a journey, will be the longest flight from the U.S. to anywhere in the world. Wow. And finally, $12.9 billion. That's the price tag for the Navy's new aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford. What a beauty. The world's most advanced warship is the first new design aircraft carrier delivered to the Navy since 1975. Let's hope we see a few more. Brian, over to you.
All right, thanks, Pete. Hillary Clinton going out on an excuses tour this week, talking about her election loss.
I take responsibility for every decision I made, but that's not why I lost.
Right. So what exactly were the reasons?
Go to Netflix, from the New York Times, Facebook, 1,000 Russian agents, Trump's Twitter account, the Democratic Party. It's very difficult, historically, to succeed a two-term president of your own party. Polling misogyny, women in the suburbs, Comey, WikiLeaks, voter suppression, fake news, all of that. And that's kind of what happened.
Exactly. With all these excuses, is it time for the Democrats to back away from her? And is this a good thing for the Republican Party? Here to debate this, former Director of Strategic Communications for Hillary Clinton, Adrienne Elrod. Adrienne, thank you for coming. Thanks. And Fox News contributor and radio show talk show host Tammy Bruce. Hey. Adrienne, I'll start with you. Do you think that what is behind Hillary Clinton's approach right now?
Well, look, first of all, she has certainly earned the right to go out there and speak about what she thinks happened in this election and why the results did not turn out in her favor. But first of all, she was at a technology conference. When she was speaking at Recode, she was talking about the deficiencies in technology at the DNC and how we need to work together as a party to improve on our technologies. But at the end of the day, she has certainly earned her right.
The DNC came out, their tech department came out defending what they did and what they had. Of course, the Obama administration was called out for not doing enough and leading the DNC in the mess they're in. And now the CIA, NSA, and FBI were told, according to her, by her camp, look out, the Russians are hacking, and they did nothing. So she's blaming all sides, Tammy. I'm wondering what the approach is here, and does that help Republicans, being that the former nominee is so angry at her own party?
Well, look, we're not surprised, of course. The problem with Hillary Clinton's candidacy, really, she was one of the worst candidates, I think, in the modern age, was her inability to engage with the reality on the street. She was, of course, reserved and removed during the campaign itself. But look, Donald Trump may have just saved us from the disaster of the Paris Accord, but every time she does go on television, and has earned that right, of course, she reminds everyone of the first disaster he saved us from, which was her. As a feminist, as somebody who worked on the Clinton campaign in '92, this is in a way heartbreaking, because this is a problem with girls watching and other women watching. A woman who says she's a leader, but will not take responsibility for what has gone wrong. Part of leadership is taking responsibility for the successes, but also for when things go wrong, so you can learn from them. So when it comes down to your question about good for the Republicans, clearly none of the Democrats have learned from what happened last year. They will never, I don't think they'll ever accept it. And so in that way, it'll be good for the Republicans. But this is a systemic problem as well, not just Hillary, but other Republicans who are not engaging or accepting the fact that Donald Trump's style is going to help get this nation off her knees. Right. It is different, and it's working.
What do you think about the fact that Joe Biden came out and had a negative thing to say about his campaign? You have Cory Booker trying to emerge, and Bernie Sanders clearly the most popular. What do you think the right thing for Hillary Clinton to do for her party would be? This?
Well, look, I think, first of all, what she's doing is she started a new PAC that is putting her donor network to good use for the resistance and all the other organizations out there that are mobilizing Democrats for the midterm elections and for 2020. But, you know, again, I want to go back to something that Tammy just said. Hillary Clinton has owned this. She has certainly admitted that she had deficiencies that contributed ultimately to the loss, but she's also making it very clear that outside factors such as the Russian influence in the elections, WikiLeaks, changed a lot of voters' minds at the last minute.
But here's what I will remind you. She is doing exactly what she accused Donald Trump of potentially doing if he lost. It was complete projection. It was she is refusing to accept the nature of what the American people have chosen, because our families matter, our future matters. And this was about recognizing leadership. And every day we've learned that that was the right decision in November.
She is alienating some Democrats, Adrian, but I could definitely appreciate your point of view, especially if you're pulling for her and work for her. It's going to be very interesting to see who emerged. Adrian Elrod, thanks so much. Tammy Bruce, great job.
Thanks, guys.
All right, coming up straight ahead, a new look at Tiger Woods' arrest.
Look directly. Watch, look. Drove back into that tip until I tell you to stop.
Wow, I cannot believe we're seeing this video. We'll show you what happened next. As the media keep their focus on Russia, could they be missing the biggest story of all? The counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, is here. How do I know? I recognize her in the hallway.
I've been working all weekend, I'm tired, I don't want to sleep, I want to have fun, time for a good time. Hey!
She is senior counselor to the President of the United States, and she's in studio. Kellyanne Conway, welcome back.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So around 3:20 yesterday, the world changed. Earth might not survive. The Paris Agreement we're walking away from that. The president made an announcement like he did on the campaign trail. The backlash has been worldwide. Or has it surprised you?
No, it hasn't surprised us at all. And I just hope that people listen to the full statement that the president made yesterday, because he did exactly what leaders do. He listened to many different insights, ideas, and inputs, weighed the consequences, and made his choice, as he always does. He is the president. He was elected to this job in large part because he promised to protect American jobs, American interests, American workers, and frankly, America. In 4.5 short months, he's already doing so much to unleash energy investment and to really roll back these these draconian and burdensome environmental regulations that President Obama sneaked in there. This was a very poorly negotiated, bad deal accord from the beginning, which I would point out to you, when it was first negotiated, many of the environmentalists went crazy. They said that this will have a statistically insignificant impact in a positive way on the environment and carbon emissions, and that it let China and India off without having to compel their behavior in such a dramatic way. Look, he talks to the coal miners, the men and women who work in paper and cement and natural gas, and we know that there is energy under our feet and off our shores in this country, and the political left, who's completely hysterical, he's historical, they're hysterical, they are trying to stop us from doing things like that, and it hurts American jobs.
If you listen to former Secretary of State John Kerry, he says this is a step back. He's even saying that this will cause your children to get asthma. Take a listen to what he said.
It's an extraordinary abdication of American leadership. It is a shameful moment for the United States to have unilaterally walked away from an agreement which did not have one other country requiring us to do something. It was a voluntary program. We designed the program. The president was not truthful with the American people today, and the president who talked about putting America first has now put America last. So he is not helping the forgotten American. He is hurting them. Their kids will have worse asthma in the summer. They will have a harder time having economic growth. He's made us an environmental pariah in the world, and I think it is one of the most self-destructive moves I've ever seen by any president in my lifetime.
Wow, tell us how you really feel. Once a politician, always a politician. I think it's a very disappointing assessment, and it tells you why he lost when he ran for president and why his friend Hillary Clinton lost this past time, because people don't feel in this country like they put America first and the American worker first. Why in the world should the United States of America absorb the front-loaded financial burden for this agreement?
You're writing checks to other countries. We already wrote $1 billion check to this, and we're on the hook to write billions more, and there's no proof where that money's going.
And in fact, there'll be a statistically insignificant impact on the environment. If you really cared about that piece, and you're one of these CEOs crowing today, then you would say, let's get a better deal. As soon as the president said yesterday he's withdrawing from the Paris Accords, in the same sentence, in the same breath, he said, but we will immediately renegotiate or consider re-entering.
But you know that Rex Tillerson reportedly wanted him to stay in it, that Ivanka called CEOs reportedly and said, please convince my father to stay in it. Jared wasn't at the press conference yesterday. What are we to read into that?
Well, yesterday was a Jewish holiday, as I understand. I'm a Catholic girl, but so I don't want to read into how anybody is spending their time and where they are or are not, but at any given time. However, that's my whole point. This is a president who's unafraid to listen to many different ideas across the spectrum, and this was a great example of that, Brian. In the end, he made the decision based on the facts and figures that he repeated yesterday, based on the fact that when he made these promises during the campaign, they weren't, it's not just a soundbite, it's not just ticking off a list of campaign promises, it's making good on fairness, on protecting the American job. You know, so much of what the president talks about goes back to fairness. Look at what he's done on immigration, for example. For years, the big question was, what's fair to the illegal immigrant? How can we help them more? He's saying, what's fair to the American worker who competes with the illegal immigrant? What's fair to the student who's trapped in a failing public school just because of his zip code? What's fair to the taxpayer, that they should be carrying the burden for deals like this? No wonder the rest of the world liked the deal, because it put the U.S. at a financial disadvantage.
It hurt us. So the hysteria around this deal from Democrats and the left was almost like something we've never seen, except we've seen it with the Russia stuff over and over and over again. They don't want to stop. Yet yesterday, a subpoena was issued by Chairman Nunes to 3 former Obama administration officials, including Samantha Power, who's no intelligence official, the former ambassador to the UN. And President Trump tweeted shortly thereafter about that, saying the real story of all this investigation is, in a tweet, he said, the unmasking and surveillance of people that took place during the Obama administration. Do you believe that's the real story, the unmasking and the leaking of information?
It's one of the real stories, and it's a major story that's going uncovered by the mainstream media. Where is that on the front pages of America's papers today? The fact that these highest-ranking officials in the Obama administration have now been subpoenaed. I hope that they'll cooperate. I hope that they'll testify so that we can learn, not through insults and insinuations and innuendo, but through sworn testimony. And this is important because the president has been talking about this for a while. We know through other reports that after the election results that none of them saw coming occurred, they were scurrying around, desperate to sprinkle around, to declassify or put at a lower classification level and sprinkle around intelligence information throughout the government so it would be there waiting for us when we arrived. And we also know, because you listened to Secretary Kelly last week on the Sunday show say that you've got these leaks and they either cross the line of treason or come really darn close to doing it. And those leaks, whether they're coming from the intelligence community or the deep state, are deleterious and harmful to all of us.
You know, there seems to be a real disconnect between what the media is focused on and what the American people really care about. I mean, Pete and I travel the country at diners, and we get a real sense of how this country's feeling right now. They are sick of talking about Russia. I mean, if there's something there, let's deal with it. But what they want to hear about is health care. They want to hear about tax reform. Where are we on that?
So it's a great question because the Fox News poll last week actually asked a question like that. What affects you and your family most? What do you care most about? Russia was last on the list. That doesn't surprise me if you live in Macomb County, Michigan, and not Moscow already. And there's a disconnect, too. You know what, Abby, I always talk about my grievance, the biased media, that's easy to see for people. But my grievance is usually the incomplete media coverage. So just this week, David Shulkin, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, set up a hotline at the White House that veterans can access if they want to talk to someone, if they want to lodge a grievance. Just this week, Elaine Chao, Secretary of Transportation, announced over $500 million in infrastructure investments at over 500 airports. You don't hear this anywhere.
Ryan Zinke, the Secretary on exploration.
Secretary of the Interior. This is important because it impacts everyday lives. Tax reform, healthcare reform, the president feels very confident that those can get done this year. He works with Leader McConnell in the Senate very closely. You've got Secretary Mnuchin, Secretary Ross, Director Cohn saying tax reform can happen this year. And everybody's working towards those goals. But you don't hear about it because it's positive information. But look, I have trust, I have faith in the American people and their wisdom to separate noise from news.
So let me tell you if this is a valid criticism. Kimberly Strassel, very respected Wall Street Journal columnist, ripped down all the things that you guys are accomplished or are working on, including Senator Thune saying when they're starting to put together a blueprint for their version of tax reform, and Senator Cornyn saying we can get this done by the end of July. And then she goes on to say part of the reason that story doesn't get out is because the president is tweeting about Russia and these things that he thinks are unfair in the media. Do you think the president could understand how he's hurting his own agenda and his own success story by talking about what his detractors are talking about?
If Twitter disappeared tomorrow, the press still wouldn't cover the positive information. I bet you, let's see how they cover the positive job numbers today. Why is nobody talking about the fact that since April of 2008, we have the highest level of people being employed between the ages of 25 and 54. Why aren't people ticking off constantly, Brian, the consumer confidence, the small business confidence numbers, the home building confidence, the manufacturing confidence?
What if he tweeted that?
He hasn't. He's talked about it. Nobody wants to pick it up because it's positive. And by the way, not only are you being spiteful and political and partisan, you're really underserving the same people you protect. You pretend that you're protecting and that you're informing. But again, I trust people to go and access the information on their own. And I have to say, at the podium every day, our press secretary, Sean Spicer, the beginning of each press briefing, he goes through a list of particulars like I just laid out. It gets very little coverage. They're just live to very little questions about it, very little coverage. But there are many great people in the White House and the administration putting together that list. I mean, again, if you just picked any random day, I can tell you the 3 or 4 things that happen in departments and agencies that impact real people's lives.
The Wall Street Journal also has a story today that you guys are setting up your own Russia unit. To maybe have some outside hires, so all questions will go to that Russia unit, much like the unit was put together by the Clintons during the whole Lewinsky mess. Is that
going to help? So it will help for people to realize that since there's a special counsel now, some questions should be referred to Mr. Mueller, and of course other questions should be referred to the outside counsel. I mean, that's the appropriate chain of command here. And I know people are obsessed and get $100 every time they say Russia, Russia, Russia. It's all speculative. I would actually remind everybody the words of former acting and deputy CIA director Mike Morrell, who served under President Obama. He very recently said, so far all he's heard are reports in the media, and he very clearly said that his experience is that's a terrible reporting chain of command because you can't always rely on what you're being told by intelligence officials. Let's wait to see the facts.
I'll just say this. I think there are a lot of Americans that love the fact that they have a president who cares more about Pittsburgh than Paris.
Absolutely.
Kellyanne, good to have you with us this morning.
Thanks for having me on the couch. I kind of blend in.
All right, you can go to the concert now. Guess who's playing?
Yeah, country music star Scotty McCreery is here on our plaza. He's getting ready to take the stage for our summer concert series, and he's getting all made up. Looking. We still have a huge show ahead, don't we, Pete?
Very much so. Welcome back to Fox and Friends. We just had Kellyanne Conway on the couch here with us, and our own Ainsley Earhardt, not here, but in Washington, D.C., live from now inside the White House, it looks like. Good morning.
She's got quite an interview this morning and a lot of news to talk about, Ainsley.
Yeah, we're always trying to get the president and the vice president to come on our show, and they graciously do occasionally. And yesterday, the vice president said, I want to go on the show, so come down here to Washington and go live. So got on a plane and came down here for Fox and Friends, and he's going to be live with us in about 15 minutes. So we want you to send in your questions, friends@foxnews.com. We're going to take one segment of the interview and let him answer some of your questions, because your thoughts, of course, are very important to us and to the vice president. We're going to be talking, we just heard Kellyanne Conway talking about what critics are saying, what John Kerry's saying. We'll talk to him about that, but we're also going to discuss terror. That's on the minds of everyone. The wall is on the minds of many Americans. We're going to talk to him about the travel ban, the Paris Agreement, health care reform, tax reform, lots of good stuff.
You're not going to run out of questions. And I also finally sent you mine as well, Ainsley.
What is your question, by the way, Pete?
No, my question, I can't give it away and then the vice president's ready for it. But I mean, it's why is climate change the religion of the left and the elite media is my question. And I'd be interested, as a staunch conservative that the vice president is, I'd love his take.
Yeah, so. Pete, you kept saying that yesterday. The environment is the left's religion. So we're going to ask him about that. Abby, if you want me to ask him a question.
It's ingrained in her head.
It's true.
Yeah, Abby, if you have a question, shoot it over to me, because I'll ask him that.
I'm going to email it to you personally, Ainsley, so don't miss it.
Okay, perfect.
But you can still send your questions into Ainsley, friends@foxnews.com. Send us your questions. We're going to have a whole segment where we're going to let viewers ask, people ask the vice president
Most
questions.
importantly, it's going to be a great interview. Ainsley, we'll see you soon.
We'll see you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, country star and American Idol winner Scotty McCreery, getting ready to take the stage right now for the summer concert series. We'll talk to him next.
Working hard and living right is the only life we know. Friday night football is king. Sweet tea goes good with anything. The fireflies come out when the sun goes down. Nobody eats till you say amen, and everybody knows your mom and me. So I'm coming over. I hope it's alright. Listen for me pulling into your town.
Now he's topping the charts with 3 consecutive albums at #1, which I think is good.
That is good. His brand new single, 5 More Minutes, is available in stores and online. Joining us now on stage, Scotty McCreery. Good morning.
Good morning. How are y'all? Good to see y'all. What's up?
You've got quite a fan base out here.
Man, it's looking good already. Early this morning, they woke up with us.
Talk to us about this new single, 5 More Minutes. This is close to your heart.
Yeah, it is. It's my favorite song I've ever written. The day I wrote it, I tweeted that out. And it's one of those life songs, takes you back, and different things you wish you could spend a little more time with and people. So, yeah, it's important.
What do you mean by that? Who do you want to spend 5 more minutes with?
Well, there's a bunch of folks. For me, I wrote it a couple weeks after I lost my granddaddy Bill, and he was the man. I'm talking, that guy, he was 86 when he went, but up until like 85, he was jumping off the diving board in the pool and swimming around, eating Hershey Kisses. So he was my dude. So kind of wrote it for him.
Is that where you get most of your ideas from? Just personal, living life and saying, hey, I want to write this down for other people to experience?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, that's kind of, a lot of folks can just pull stuff out of thin air. I got to live it or know folks that have lived it and kind of pull from that. So that's what I think country music is, real people talking about real life stories. That's
Scotty,
what I try to do.
You did this beautiful performance just a few nights ago for Memorial Day, brought tears to my eyes and so many people's eyes about our military and how we lose too many people too soon.
Absolutely. For me, it's one of those things. I don't think we can thank our military folks enough, because the sacrifice that they know they might have to make, but they still go out there willingly and fight for us and our country and our protection and our freedom. So, I thank them every day I see them, and was glad to be there for that performance. It was a special night.
So, Scotty, a couple of things happen in your career. One, you emerge on American Idol and you win it, right?
Sure thing.
And then you make the transition to the real world and you make it in country music.
Yeah.
Where was the doubt, or where was the hurdle the highest? To win Idol or to prove to the country music world that you didn't just win a contest, you belong?
Yeah, I think it was the latter right there. you know, you get the chance to be on TV, and you know, I just auditioned to go and hang out with Jennifer Lopez, and you know, but it turned into a lot more, and we got to hang out. But you know, I wanted to get to Nashville and prove that, you know, I'm not a TV guy. I'm a country music artist and a guy that loves to sing and make songs, and so we've been trying to do the last 6 years.
Scotty, you've also been named both country music's sexiest man.
What do you guys think?
They didn't see me for sound check this morning.
And hottest bachelor. So,
oh gosh,
do you like those titles?
I guess it's better than not having. I don't know. I just go with it. It's crazy, man.
Scotty, what was it like waking up this morning? He asked me when I came out here, what time do you wake up every morning for the show?
I work the night shift. I mean, I'm typically working late nights, so it's early. But we're glad to do it here in NYC. We got a good crowd. It's going to be a good day.
How do you disseminate this for a guy that stopped playing music in 8th grade between Southern rock, traditional country, and new country? What's the difference?
Oh man, everything's kind of blending together nowadays. It's I don't know, man. For me, country music, the core of country music will always be the song. That's kind of what brings folks back. People can relate to the songs, and you know, things are kind of blending together nowadays. But I love it.
With you?
Yeah,
we have rapping in the middle of country music sometimes.
You know, it's definitely different than, you know, I grew up on stuff like Conway Twitty and George Jones and Dolly and Loretta. But you know, we're bringing more and more folks to country music. But they're selling out stadiums nowadays in country music, which is awesome. So I'm glad to see it.
You're going to do this all morning long. We cannot wait to hear you sing a little later on in the show.
Thank you very much. We're happy to be here.
Who wants to come up and sing with you?
Come on out. Come on out. The more the merrier. Come on.
Should Abby sing with him?
Why not?
All right, we would not have a series without you.
Hey, man,
Thanks so
appreciate
much
it.
for
Great
coming
to be
back
back.
again.
Thanks for having us.
He'll be singing throughout the morning. Meanwhile, next, a live interview with the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, at the top of the hour with this woman named Ainsley Earhart.
You know her?
Yeah, I've met her. She's really nice.